in hospitals, like I mentioned, to really spread the awareness and connect with those individuals. However, my goal for the first year is to renovate 10 houses. So what does that entail? If each project has 5 volunteers, and each volunteer will be around $50 for traveling expenses and gear, that would be $250. And these are 3 essential items that would be included in a fully accessible house. So with 10 houses and each of these elements, that would be $74,500. So again, like I said, I got a lot of insights that really helped me further understand and further develop my project. One of which was from a physical therapy practice owner in West Hartford, Connecticut, where she said that a lot of her patients explained to her how the ceiling is self-implemented. And what she means by that is the individuals understand that they are fully capable of living the life that they had before they suffered from an injury. But maybe the problem is they don't know who to reach out to, they don't know what the resources are, and maybe they don't have the funds for that. So my goal, connect with individuals that suffer from these life-altering injuries, decrease any challenges or obstacles they may have from living in a non-adaptive home, and overall increase their independent living ability. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does this intersect at all with the military and veterans who are injured?
So another branch off of Habitat for Humanity is Habitat for Heroes. So they do partner with certain veterans that come back and say if they are put into a wheelchair or experience an injury like that, they partner with that. So another possibility would maybe expand Habitat for Heroes into also welcoming other kinds of disabilities or other kind of injuries, but it is a separate branch, but it does exist, yes.
Did you learn some lessons from that, or?
I did a little bit. It was interesting to see the different kinds of branches that they have for Habitat for Heroes. It was a lot of, it involved Habitat for Humanity reaching out to them. So I thought that was really intriguing in the sense that veterans don't really have to necessarily find a specific place that will help them, but there is Habitat for Humanity that reaches out to those individuals.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Have you spoken to Habitat for Humanity about what it would take to launch this or work with them?
So one of my biggest problems was that I haven't heard back from Habitat for Humanity yet. I've called and emailed, so I'm waiting for that to come back, but all of my insights so far have been from nursing facilities, physical therapy centers, and individuals that experience these injuries themselves, but I'm waiting to hear back from Habitat for Humanity, so I will have to let you know.
Can you talk a little bit more about the funding and where it might come from and why people might, I assume it's donation to a foundation, but.
Yeah, so what I looked at for fundraising, I sort of separated into a short term and a long term. So short term would include things like mail appeal letters, more one-on-one like personal contacts, and one-time donors or events and athletic sponsorships sorts of things. And then for long-term donations, I was thinking more of partnering with businesses, like I said, or corporate businesses that can become like an overall annual donor and really have that huge impact on the foundation itself.
To the Habitat question, 2 parts. First, kind of what's the incentive to Habitat to expand into this area of work? And do you have a plan B? What if you don't hear back?
So for the first part, for the incentive, I think Habitat for Humanity is all about inclusivity, and they do reach out to so many different types. So aside from the Habitat for Heroes, they have Habitat for Women, Habitat for Developing Areas. So I think they could potentially be very open to another branch off of that. And then, can you repeat the second part? Sorry.
Plan B, if they don't email back.
Plan B, yeah. So I talked to a lot of mentors about that, and I think Plan B would be to try and bring this to partner with another organization, one of which is a bike tour that does a very similar thing where they attract a lot of road bikers or intense mountain bikers, and they all pack together and travel to certain areas to help volunteer in transforming these homes. But yeah, so the alternative would be to partner with another foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Rory Kelly. May I ask the judges, if you wouldn't mind, would you guys, when you ask your questions, could you speak up a little bit? It's a little bit harder to hear in the back. Thank you so much.
honored and excited to be able to share my innovation with you all today called Caterpillar Co. First, I want to introduce you to my cousin Colin. Colin was an incredible storyteller, a YouTube blogger on his channel Life According to Colin. He was a world language enthusiast, and he also had male genitalia and identified as female. He was transgender. And Colin was not alone. Now, I knew in my head that transgender people face a lot of obstacles, discrimination, and struggles, but it wasn't until my cousin Colin committed suicide this past November that I really felt it in my heart. Now, we have this big pink-blue dichotomy. We put a lot of emphasis on gender, and when 50% of us are male and 50% of us are female, why do we celebrate that? That's not what makes us individuals. And when looking at the baby and young child market, it appears that gender is the most important characteristic to the consumers. But when I talk to parents of young children, they said that actually they're most happiest when they have a happy and healthy child. Now, babies are beautiful. And they're beautiful because they're cute, but they're also beautiful because they represent new life and hope for growth in the future. So I say, while we have this pink-blue dichotomy, let's add a third color that really celebrates new life and hope. Let's add green. Caterpillar Co. is a non-for-profit that offers gender-neutral clothing for babies and young children, and the proceeds from the sales go towards transgender services, specifically general public education and medical research. Now, I validated my idea in multiple ways, but I'd like to talk about two today. The first of which is the conversations I had with parents of young children. I talked to these parents and asked them about how they like to treat their child, what opportunities they want to give them to grow, and also what they thought about the baby and young child market. And what kept coming up over and over again was that they want to see more gender-neutral options. One reason being that to take the emphasis off of the child's gender and leave space for more emphasis on the child as an individual. But the second reason is also that it's more economical. So if a parent has a son and then a daughter, they can use the same onesie for both children. The second validation I'd like to talk about was watching the PBS documentary Growing Up Trans, which features patients at the Lurie Children's Hospital program for gender and sex development, the leading program in the world. And from this documentary, that's how I determined that education and medical research were the two areas I wanted to put my funding towards, because a lot of the obstacles that these transgender children face were just lack of awareness, understanding, and empathy for transgender people. And also the professionals at Lurie Children's kept repeating over and over again that while they know that hormone therapy is very effective, they're not sure what the long-term outcomes are or possible complications. So they need a lot of funding for that. So my next step is to identify key partners. This is in terms of merchandising, which I've started to explore a little bit into, but I haven't fully solidified yet. I'd like to talk about them more in Q&A if you'd like to ask me. But really, identifying key partners right now that I'm super focused on is in terms of funneling for education and research. One possible partner is the Anti-Defamation League. They have a curriculum for middle school and high school students on what it means to be transgender, gender nonconformity, and other related concepts. And as I mentioned, Lurie Children's, one of the strongest programs in the world. They're doing studies right now. They've done studies in the past, but they said they need more research. So in terms of budget, I came up with an income statement for 1 and 5 years. And to really understand the health of an organization, you need income statement and balance sheets. But I had difficulty coming up with balance sheets for 5 years because I'm really not sure how the money's going to partition. So I stuck with this income statement, and then I can go further into the 1-year budget. So I split it up into the first 6 months of the year and the second 6 months. The first 6 months, I imagine just minimal costs for transportation to meet with potential partners, as well as time and energy capital for applying for grants and fundraising. For the second half of the year, I determined that to produce a onesie of high quality in the United States and at the cottage industry level from artisans would be about $11, and I'd like to produce 1,000, so $11,000 for onesies. I'd also like $4,000 for a website with basic e-com function and info about Caterpillar Co. and our impact. And again, time and energy capital. So as far as returns, the first 6 months, I'm hoping to get donations, as well as take out a $5,000 loan at 12% interest. And in my income statement, I was able to pay that off within 1 year. For the second half of the year, I'd like to sell onesies between $25 and $30, so making about $27,000 in onesie sales. Furthermore, I'd have web advertisement at 20 cents cost per click. And I'm also hoping to get a $50,000 grant. This grant would really enable Caterpillar Co. to grow in the directions that maybe aren't apparent right now, but will really help Caterpillar Co. make the most impact. And then finally, hopefully some more donations. Obstacles and risks I face, generally just lack of acceptance and understanding and empathy for transgender individuals. And then my own limitations as far as my understanding of what it's like to be a parent, a member of the transgender community, and also my limited knowledge of finance and the baby and young child market. But I'm going to do everything I can to mitigate these issues through research, joining with advisors, building connections, and that sort of thing. So first, I just want to thank my mentors and advisors, and also say that this is in honor and memory of my cousin Colin. Thank you.
Would you say a little bit about your choice of legal status? Why a nonprofit?
So I was actually deciding between a nonprofit and a B Corp, and for just the simplicity, I decided to go with nonprofit now because I don't really understand enough yet to make that decision, and a lot of what we were learning, especially in terms of finance, was profit or nonprofit. So I decided to go with nonprofit, and honestly, personally, I'm not in this for making a profit, I'm in this to make an impact. Yes.
Why did you decide to allocate 30% of your first year budget to a website?
Because I want the website to be the home base. I understand that in the